You're gonna wanna take that, agreement with you today? Okay. So I'll have Rick sign his file.
We'll have to mail it.
Scan it?
Scan it,
Oh,
send it.
is that how you want it? Okay. You want to sign that?
Yes.
That's fine.
I got all that, I was gonna work at it after.
Well, I can scan it back to you if you wanna forward it to them or whatever.
You just will forward it to.
Well, I got it from you, so I gotta remember where it goes.
I got it.
Okay.
Okay. Just print names, so you want me to
Yeah.
print mine under that? Okay. You put county name. Okey-dokey.
And then, that's that. That's the same kind of just my format for it. Oh, Shelby, you let him in, just that door unlocked. Thank you. You can push the bottom button, it'll unlock it. No, it's on the door. You don't find it.
I just walked through it.
Button.
If you
I'm like, wait a
sign
minute,
this,
what am I
please.
doing?
I got that.
Hello,
Morning.
Scott.
Morning underneath it.
Oh. Did your people find any
Didn't see it.
refrigerated trailers?
Yeah, we ended
I
up
pushed the
not
this button.
needing.
Yeah, it's on the side
Yeah,
of the
we
door.
overcame it, they ended up not needing.
What are you
Right,
guys
look where
signing?
your hand, take your hand to the right, right there.
There you go.
Ah!
There you go.
Look at me, I can be smart. Now how do you unlock the foot holder?
Push it up, pull it back up.
Pull it up? Okay. God, who invited me?
You can leave the door open and see what happens.
You guys want the door open? Circulation? There, now I'm gonna push it back down. See, you did it intentionally.
How are you?
I'm not too bad, how are you?
You won't say that to me next week.
No, probably not. I mean, I'll still buy you.
A lot of debris?
Tons of debris.
All right, you won't like me next week.
An insane amount of debris.
You want today's date?
Four.
Well, define debris. Yeah, I am.
Okay, long, passive aggression.
The rest of this, some of the other stuff, rather than bombarding me with paperwork, I sent emails.
Yeah, I got that one too.
Yeah, it just, FEMA site has greatly improved over my 22-year career,
I just got
being
one.
able to find stuff. So,
That or you're just,
And-
getting more
no,
knowledgeable?
because they change it all the time.
Okay.
It's just fun, it's a lot better as far as the information they're putting up in a way that most people can read it and understand it.
You put our emails in there already, that way we got the audit.
Did I do what?
I want to do all already, so you want to track it from my.
So that, I got that too,
I
let's
did
just
not.
compound what's going on and,
Okay.
audit a grant from 3 years ago. Those are
Well,
automatic
that's what I said,
things.
what, I asked her for more, detail on which one it was.
Good,
so.
yeah, because it didn't say, I didn't know either.
So I haven't had one since 16, so.
Thank you.
I figured this would be my EMPG grant, but it didn't say that. Usually it specifically says that, so I don't know which one. It's interesting. I never heard back from the engineer if he was gonna,
Speaking
I'm
of,
speaking of, so yeah, he was gonna be here.
orange.
Morning. Boy, do you have a lot of signs to put back up.
Mhm.
Holy cow.
Yes,
That's
that's
just-
another semi-loaded post order.
That's just a little bit I drove around Sunday. Wow.
Yeah. Hey, I got power back yesterday.
Yay.
Coach Shelby, we're on the
Yes.
same line.
We are.
So I have noticed there must be a MUTCD change with the size of signs. I mean, they're all getting, like all the federal highway signs are all bigger than they used to be. The new ones are putting up, but the posts are the same size I've noticed, so I'm not sure that's gonna work.
Depends on maybe where you're looking, I don't think so. A lot of it has to do with speed.
Okay,
I mean, four lane
yeah.
at 30, those stop signs.
I notice it's on the federal highways, the signs are bigger.
I'm not sure if it's an Iowa DOT thing or an MUTC. Okay, but they go to the 48-inch stop signs on the expressway,
Okay,
4-lane
all right,
setup, so.
all right, maybe it has to do with, that's just Iowa then maybe.
Where, I didn't even have any.
Yeah, that's who needed to be here, applicants. So, all right. I'm just gonna, I did this yesterday with mayors and clerks to get them prepared. Just and to do a brief, quick overview and then get them prepared for what's coming, which happened yesterday. So obviously you know all about the storm. I'm not sure how aware you all are of the initial Monday afternoon and into basically Tuesday, Wednesday, and the rest of the week. Initially after the storm, all communications were off, down. Just county could barely talk, let alone page. Most of the microwaves decided to turn east in that wind. And phone system issues, cell phones, almost non-existent, most carriers. But we got calls through, we got emergency calls through. Responders started calling us when they had access with, hey, call this number, we'll have somebody at the station. So if we got a call, just call the number. So they ramped up for the first 2 or 3 days and staffed their stations 24/7, EMS and fire and law enforcement, so that they can receive emergency calls by any means necessary. The ongoing lack of internet was the biggest hindrance for me and our agency the first week, because that's our normal means of communication, getting information out to the cities and all that with, hey, this is what's going on and what do you need. But it got better as the week went on, and we found other ways to get communication across. So the request for state resources, you guys did the disaster declaration on Tuesday right away. That was great. That opened up the state resources, so we were able to get those coming in from the cities, mostly DOT resources to help clean up debris and generators. Belle Plaine got a lot of generators, 4 from the state and a bunch on their own, trying to power up different critical assets in that community, which was great because it makes a huge difference. By the end of the week, some communities had at least partial electricity back. Some of the rural areas had at least partial electricity back. That's continuing. Basically what Alliant is out doing is bypassing the transmission lines and energizing substations that feed those towns off the transmission lines so that they can get power back, because the transmission line rebuild is going to be a few weeks and months with some of those. It's not just 1 or 2 poles here and there, it's lines. So they're doing a great job doing that. I didn't get my nightly update last night. Alliant's been good about calling every night. I didn't get one last night from them updating me. But it's the Keystone. Apparently there was an issue with the transformer in that substation, so they're going to be down a little longer than the rest as a town.
The substation for Keystone is north of Weatherstack.
Okay.
And there's over a mile of poles down.
Coming
north of our
around,
house.
it's still coming out of that
And it goes
substation. Okay.
north of 32 miles, and then it goes west.
Okay.
And I assume the poles going east and west are probably fairly good.
Probably okay. Yeah.
But the ones going north and south,
Yeah. Yeah.
they should have them by tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, Mark, so we'll do some more formal overview after this settles down a little bit. I've already got a lot of lessons learned captured for improvements for the next time. Because the biggest difference between this one, 2 big differences between this windstorm and the 2011 windstorm. The scope of the path is a lot wider. There's 10 communities in Benton County impacted instead of 4. And we didn't lose our normal communications in 2011 like we did with this one. So that's what changed the whole scope of this. And the other big one that's out there is COVID-19 has changed the response from organizations that we're used to relying on. I'll just leave that right there for now. Because after I settle down in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I will be able to speak nicely about that. But we're doing great. So the main message is, even with lack of formal communications, the cities, there were enough people in the cities that they know what to do. They ramped up, they started doing it. They started taking care of their citizens. They started removing debris, getting stuff shoved off the roads to clear paths for emergency vehicles. The same way with out in the county. Secondary roads was out right away. They were out during the storm, obviously, because they're out doing their regular work. So they were on it right away, doing all they could, getting roads open, barricades up where power lines were. Everybody did a great job. They know what to do, even without centralized coordination and communication between each other. Communities took it upon themselves to do whatever they could to help feed their own citizens. Belle Plaine set up a fantastic organization at the community center with community volunteers. We hooked into Salvation Army right away. I have a direct connection to that. And so we hooked up into that. My wife started right away with organizing some food, and what Belle Plaine needed was the food. They had the organization to distribute it, so we started buying the food right away from Fairway, because Fairway's up and running and selling groceries. And we would transport it down to Belle Plaine. So that was like Wednesday and Thursday last week, and then I finally got out-of-state Salvation Army people in with a couple trucks in the canteen, and then we started buying enough food to make regular runs to each community that they were then supposed to make available to their citizens and anybody in their rural areas that they knew. They did a good job about organizing that to either let the people know they can come into town and get the meals, or if they needed to run out to them, they'd find volunteers to run them out to them in their areas where they were working out in the country. So Red Cross, right away Monday evening, we got a lot of calls from the Timber Ridge Court, which was very hard hit. Monday evening, it was late, but they got them all in motel shelter on Monday evening, so the same day of the storm. There's roughly 52. They haven't registered them yet. It's not their normal situation either, and so we're taking it upon ourselves now. I've got a couple people working in EOC now. We've reached out to those motels where we think they are and asked them to tell the residents, because they can't give us their information. So we've asked them to tell all the residents that they know are there from Benton County to please call our EOC so we can start some registration with them. So we're working on that, because we know we have at least 10 homes in Timber Ridge that are destroyed, and so that's going to need housing. And that's why we want to find out who they are and start helping with that, and what we can do here locally to start getting them in at least some temporary housing, because they're not coming back to their home in Timber Ridge. Let's see, Salvation Army's purchased and delivered to date over 12,000 meals throughout Benton County for this event, so they're doing a good job with that, rocking and rolling. The biggest thing I want to touch on, I'm going to back up to this one and we'll get this one out of the way. And then the biggest thing I want to touch on is about what's about to happen. So as you heard yesterday, and I sent emails out of the rest of the late day. I think I forgot to include the Board of Supervisors group. Sorry, I forgot Linda Fisher too to post it on our Facebook page. But the governor asked for and received already, because she asked for an expedited process, and that was as expedited as I've ever seen in my life. The public assistance program is open and turned on for all categories. So that's what I just emailed you, is that overview sheet of program overview. So if you go to the FEMA website, I mailed you the link to this page, so you don't have to waddle through the FEMA pages. It'll go directly to this page, and each one of these boxes titled, you just click on and it tells you about what the box says it is. But all categories are open, so debris removal, emergency protective measures, that's what we're focusing on first. But then category C is roads and bridges, water control facilities is D, E is public buildings and contents, so that's the other big one. We've got a lot of government buildings damaged, so those are eligible for non-insured reimbursement costs. So if you have insurance on the buildings, it's whatever the deductible is basically, or costs that won't be covered by insurance, are the only allowed costs then to be reimbursed. So you're already starting to see in your head how complicated this gets to do the assessment on all of this. Public utilities, so the RECs are available, parks, recreational, other facilities. So Myron knows what's coming. The only difference is, did your engineers association get training on the new damage assessment upload system like ISAC recently? Because the process to do this is all, they want you loading your own information in without a FEMA person sitting beside you. That's the new way of doing business. You gotta go onto a FEMA website. If you haven't received that training yet, I'm sure they'll be doing tutorials here shortly as they start their public assistance meetings, but that's gonna be the process. You use that for COVID.
We did
It's
that.
gonna be a
and
very
then
similar
for the
system.
16th, I
And
did.
for the 16, they were doing it back then, okay, so, like anything, once you learn it, it's fairly easy, but it's just a matter of, if you've never done it before, you're gonna look at that website and go, huh? That's why I said you're not gonna like me next week. But it's the way it's being done, and it's the way going forward, so the good news is for Benton County and its cities, the public assistance is open in all categories, and it's just now a matter of doing the formal damage assessment process, which is going to be building by building, the amount of debris, the signs, and each city though does their own as a jurisdiction, and then the county will be the county, but the engineer falls under the county, but he's got to pretty much collect his own information. He's in charge of that. And you will have to you are your own applicant as a county conservation. So you don't add yours to theirs. You're your own. Last I knew, to even qualify for a small project, you had to have at least $3,300 of costs associated with damages. You're all gonna make it just on debris removal. So that's no problem. You're all gonna be able to be qualified applicants. And then before I open it up for general questions, which I know you have, the other part of what happened during the storm Monday is at 12:58 we received a notification call from Dwayne Arnold on their notification system. So that was a warm fuzzy because the notification system worked that they have in place when all the other communications were down. They declared an unusual event, which isn't anything I have to tell any of the rest of you about. It's just that's where they start their notification level because they had lost all off-site power. So even though they're a generation station, excuse me, they have to have off-site power coming in to run all their auxiliary lights, heat, cooling, radiation monitors, all that stuff. So if they don't, they have to declare an unusual event. The reactor also scrammed, not related to the unusual event with off-site power. There was another event that caused that, which we found out on Tuesday, is the windstorm blew down their cooling towers. Now I know when you're used to seeing plants on the news, you see these big concrete convex towers. They don't have those. They have horizontal structures that are made out of wood and composite materials, and all the pipes run through there. They only stand like 30 feet above the ground, and they're very long structures though. But they sit out in the middle by themselves. So they took the direct, and that was the path of the measured 112 that was reported out of Lynn County, which we know is even higher. The Weather Service has done a deal, and they've got a whole swath through Benton and Lynn County of 110 to 130 plus with some of the structures that were damaged. They've just completed their cost benefit analysis because, as you know, they were scheduled to shut down October 30th this year anyway. They looked at bringing in portable cooling towers and get back up and running to go through October 30th. The numbers don't make any sense, so they have today just sent the email that they are starting the formal process for decommissioning now. Yeah, they're done. They're not gonna operate ever again. So 3 months early, nobody gets to do the ceremonial turn off the switch like they had planned. Mother Nature took care of that for them. So they're done generating power and they will start the decommissioning process. So that's just an aside, just so you know, that's what's going on there. Oh, that's notes about generators and no planes. So that's a quick down and dirty. All I can say to end this is if you see any of our responders or any of our county employees in any office, everybody did a fantastic job. The courthouse generator didn't start, so you guys were over here in the dark and no computers and phone system down and, you know, things like that. They just happen. It wasn't the fault of anybody, the generator start. They do regular testing. It was just one of those events where apparently the way the power disconnected from Benton and tried to reconnect and then disconnected again just caused the generator to say, what's going on? I don't like any of this and I'm not gonna start. It's happened to me before when I was over here. So it's just one of those things. But everybody did a fantastic job in all of our departments and all of our employees and the cities and the responders. And just like 2011, we're gonna recover from this. The landscape's gonna look a little different when we're done, but we're gonna get back on our feet and continue to do business in this county. So if you got any questions for me, out of any of you, especially you.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to know where to start, and then I'm
I know.
feeling a little
And
better.
you can take me one-on-one if you
Sure.
want later.
And the adjuster is coming around, you should kind of go around if you don't.
No, because that's gonna funnel through you and you're gonna be the applicant and the one doing it anyway, so I will give, so to even get the governor to ask for a presidential disaster declaration for public assistance, you have to do what's called initial damage assessment. They have to know if there's even, you know, what happened and is there even a great enough need to ask for it, because each county has to meet a per capita threshold of uninsured or uncovered damages based on your county population. We blew that one out of the water, no problem. But then it has to accumulate to a statewide per capita, and at Iowa it's like 4.3 million, just to round it off. There has to be 4.3 million of uninsured or non-covered damages in the affected counties to even ask FEMA to ask for a presidential declaration. If you saw the declaration the governor asked for, even on the preliminary damage assessment, it was $3,998,000,000. And that will go up. This was a long storm. It started west of Des Moines, went through the northern Polk Metro and Ankeny and all of that, and continued on all the way across to the Mississippi River. Clinton County even lost completely down the communications tower. We thankfully didn't lose any of our towers. We just had some equipment misaligned and antennas bent over. But so this is a big one. I had 4 emergency managers: the Blackhawk, the Delaware, the Buchanan, and the Clayton County emergency managers that came down to me Wednesday and went out and did that preliminary damage assessment for us. So Steve will be sending their commissions a thank you note on behalf of the commission, but if you ever see their supervisor sometime and you think about it, give them a thanks for allowing their employees to do that, because that took a huge load off of us, the EOC, and they got it done in 4 hours. Split them up in 2 teams. They were out and back, and we had the numbers we needed and uploaded for the governor to see, Homeland Security Emergency Management, and the governor to see. So we added into that very quickly. In fact, we were one of the first ones done with an initial assessment that week. So I give kudos to them to just drop what they were doing and come down and do that for us. And so that's nothing. Yeah, so go ahead. Yep.
Under this paper you gave us.
Yeah.
Declared August 17th. It's got individual assistance. This is to individuals and households. It says under review.
Right. So
we have many
yes, we do.
rural residents
Yes, we
that
do.
have got substantial damage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
When? That's
city
a
residents.
loaded question.
Nope.
When and how
Fair.
do you anticipate that they're going to be able
Right.
to seek assistance?
I'll back up and say, over the course of my career, the rules have changed after every event, and it gets harder and harder for an event to trigger FEMA individual assistance. So I was very pleased to see the governor even ask for it, because what they've done, those have to have numbers also. And those are a lot harder to do because it's individual assistance, you're talking about homes and businesses rather than government infrastructure. There's way more. And you have to go physically look at any structure that may be damaged and categorize it. It's an affected, it's a minor, it's a major, it's a destroyed, to gather those numbers. And then did they have insurance? And if they have insurance, how much is that covering? Because again, on the individual assistance side, they're looking for that gap. What is the gap that's not covered by insurance? So thankfully, with the technology we've had over these decades, Iowa Homeland Security Emergency Management, basically, they have a statewide GIS system. They utilize that to just go ahead and put together preliminary numbers just based on percentages. They knew what the windstorm was. They knew from our assessment on the public assistance side that we had a lot of debris, a lot of trees and power lines down, and a lot of government buildings damaged, so they could extrapolate that out into a percentage of, well, if it affected this much in a community with vegetation and government buildings, then this percentage of their homes are probably major or destroyed. So they put that together on their own without even coming to us, which was great, because I don't know how I was even gonna try to do that. So they expedited that process that way. That's why it's under review by FEMA, because it's not a normal process to get to those numbers. I still expect this week we'll have the answer. But, again, it is going to be insurance first, and that's what we're trying to put out in our press releases now every time we put something out, to get the citizens to understand you have to contact your insurance agent first, because a lot of this can be done through insurance. Most insurance policies have a debris removal percentage on there, so if you had, I'll round it off in easy numbers, if you had $100,000 in damage, 10% of that is then good for debris removal. They'll pay up to $10,000 then to have a contractor come in and remove your debris for you, so you don't even have to worry about, oh, if I got organized to come do this, friends, neighbors, volunteers, whatever, the insurance company will just pay for it. So people need to check that. That's why they have to go to insurance first, because that process could be started as soon as their adjuster or agent says, yep, you're covered for X number of thousands of dollars of debris removal, start moving it. And they can just find a contractor and do that on their own. That doesn't mean we aren't still utilizing volunteer assistance. We are. It's not as organized in this event as I was able to do in 2011, again, because of some organizations have changed the way they're doing things. They've also consolidated, instead of regional centers, they've consolidated into one big one. So it's just, they're being overwhelmed. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. And so this is going to be a slower process, but it's still happening. I've told the state, any organization or group or volunteer organization that calls in and says, is there a place we can go in Benton County to help? My message to them is send them here and tell them to just start driving around the county, out in the rural areas and in the cities. And if they see people that look like they need help, walk up to them with a smile on their face and say, I'm so-and-so, I'm with this group and I can help you clean up. And the person can make the decision then if they want to accept that or not. It's been working. I watched it work in Belle Plaine on Sunday when I was standing there with Steve Beck, their city administrator, and a group that had rolled up. It was an organized group, a faith-based group. They said what they were able to do. They were willing to help. They could bring in 25 people, and then Steve said, go for it. Register at the community center and start knocking on doors or walking neighborhoods. So it's working, but because that was also asked for expedited, this is just Tuesday, I'm pretty sure we will hear on the individual assistance program. I hope it opens, because the people are going to get, the citizens are going to get much better help with FEMA individual assistance program opening than they would with just our statewide and our local agency programs, just because of the size of the scope of this. I don't want to bore you with stuff, but I want you to understand processes. A decade ago, because it was so hard, it was getting harder and harder for an event to open FEMA individual assistance, the state of Iowa took it upon themselves and they created an Iowa Individual Assistance Grant Program. Probably have heard that on the news that it is open, because that one is open. We open that right away as soon as we have an event like this, knowing that there's somebody that's uninsured or in lower income level that's going to need assistance. So we open that up right away. That's got a $5,000 cap though. So, all right, right? See? Oh yeah. Gotcha. Now you understand. why we want FEMA to open. It has a $5,000 cap. That has to be administered by HACAP, by Iowa Road Law and Code. HACAP has to administer all those grant applications. Well, you know the counties that HACAP covers. They're all in the disaster declaration. And this is the event I was concerned about because it impacts all 7 of the counties they cover, and they only have 2 full-time staff that manage these applications. And we fall under Benton, Lynn, and Jones is one person that manages all those applications. So even our local disaster recovery coalition, we go last. We really can't. We're having a meeting Thursday to discuss it, but the way our coalition is set up right now, we go last. We can't even give out money yet because it has to go through Iowa Individual Assistance first and max out that $5,000, and then they send that case to us for the further unmet needs, and then we deal with it. But we're also a nonprofit group that only has the money. We raise donate. It's all by donation. We try to keep money in the bank so that we can start when an event like this happens. But if we don't keep getting donations in, then we can't give money back out. The other good thing that's tied to, the other thing that's tied to Iowa Individual Assistance is CAPS also then have to do case management tied with that. And again, it's the same person. That's the case manager. So if FEMA Individual Assistance does not open up, then it starts with Iowa Individual Assistance. The maximum they can get there is $5,000. They're going to be overwhelmed. The only thing I could hope is that Iowa would realize that the CAPS are going to be overwhelmed in these impacted counties, and they would create some other fund to help them hire additional staff so that it's not directly out of their budget. I've seen that happen before in some of our other bigger statewide disasters where they, like Rebuild Iowa was one of them after the 2008 flood. They put money in, and that helped local jurisdictions with case management. They would fund, like our coalition hired case management in 2008, and that rebuilt. It was Embrace Iowa. Rebuild Iowa helped with structures. Embrace Iowa was a state fund where we, as a coalition, could ask for reimbursement for what we paid for our case managers. So it ended up that 100% of our money that we were actually receiving was actually going to help citizens because the state reimbursed our case management fund. So hopefully that will happen. If FEMA opens up, there is a component in FEMA that can also reimburse jurisdictions for case management. So I know that was complicated and kind of all over the place, but
Well,
individual assistance will happen one way or another. It just depends on what it's going to look like. If FEMA opens up, it's going to look much better.
Sure.
Because they have a bigger pool of money.
Obviously.
Well, if you look at farmsteads from south of Benton,
Oh yeah,
whatever, everyone can apply
sure.
and probably max out the 5,000.
Well, they have to,
I'm
Iowa
not sure.
Individual Assistance, they have to meet income guidelines, and they have to be 200% of poverty level or less. Because it's to help, because they, you draw a line in the sand somewhere, right? And basically they get to that point of 200% of poverty level or less, then they're making an assumption that at least most of those people above that income can afford insurance and have insurance. Obviously that's not 100% true, but and as we well know, insurance companies always win. So even if you have insurance, you have costs that they aren't going to cover. We know that.
Yeah, maybe some insurance companies that
Yes.
bankruptcy.
Right. I know. So,
In 2011, it cost me dearly what the insurance company
Right.
would not cover.
exactly right.
And this is where I'm hoping, because FEMA, if
Yes.
they open up,
Right.
would help cover some
That's
of those
where they
individual
come in.
costs.
Yes. It's those uninsured costs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
no, I'm not trying to
No.
belittle insurance companies.
I don't
but
either,
Sometimes
but-
it's a hell of a battle,
Yes, it is. Yep.
so.
It is. Yes. So.
I said sometimes.
You did. So I want to know, I want to know when it isn't about.
But, I understand, they've got a business to run too, but, if there's individual assistance available
Yeah.
for those costs above insurance, then you'll let us know,
Right.
obviously.
We're unfortunately in the wait.
Yeah.
It's not a wait for everything, but it's the wait phase for, the state doesn't want to let the CAP start giving any money out yet through the individual assistance program, knowing they have the FEMA request here. But they're still registering people through that program. We've got the paperwork all over in every community. We've told them to get it out to their rural areas because so we're trying to saturate it. Now that regular communications are coming back, it's getting posted on news sites, our Facebook page. We're getting it out there. Over the course of this week, I think enough people that are going to need assistance that think they qualify for the Iowa assistance will at least have gotten a hold of an application and filled it out, because that application will be transferred up to FEMA. So at least if they fill out the application and FEMA opens up, that application goes right up to FEMA and they've captured the information they need and they can start that process.
For a loaded question,
Yes.
do you anticipate that FEMA is going to have an income cap limit as far as individual incomes?
I gotta believe they do, but I don't know, so I will find that out. It's been, last time individual assistance opened was 08, and the program has completely changed since then. And 2008 is just a blur to me now. I don't remember if there was a cap on the income or not. I can't remember.
That's fine.
I can't remember.
It was a loaded question.
Yep, that's all right.
Yeah.
It's something I could have prepared for though and known, because I could have looked into that program
That's all right.
a little deeper, but I'll find out.
Yeah.
Because the citizens will want to know that
Yes.
when it comes out.
How much is
Also.
it gonna cost the county just to replace the signs?
Yes.
All of it.
Yeah.
Can't you cut a deal with REC and just chop some of their poles up their way?
Hannah's got a couple holes.
Look, stop signs every 300 feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thanks. I wanted to get over and give you an update after the first week, so I appreciate your time.
And for the excellent job that you've done in your crew.
It's been everybody. Yep. Yep. So, Myron,
Questions, gentlemen? Ladies?
you more than anyone know the routine, other than they change how they want it done every time, but the categories stay the same and what they want to know stays the same. It's just how you upload it.
Joe from the Manchester DNR office called just before I left here, and I want to talk to him or not, but
Okay.
City of Keystone is not wanting to burn their debris weeds. They're looking at maybe grinding or something. Joe just was curious whether the county was doing anything and whether things could be collectively done. I told him to talk to Eric at the landfill and see if, because they might be seeing an abundance coming in, whether a mobile grinder could be tied together that way. Keystone doesn't want to burn. And, Joe, I gave him your number.
Okay.
Scott,
Yeah,
he said he
good.
would call you
All
after
right.
lunch just to,
Yep.
he was gonna call Lynn County, I think, landfill and see what they were doing, and maybe there'd be an opportunity to try to put something,
Sure.
group together.
And that's what the state would like to see, because I asked them, I've done this enough, I'm always so far ahead of it now. I even called the state Wednesday and said, are you gonna be putting a state contract together for the big good grinders so that we can roll them around all our cities? And they're like, you're so far ahead on this, we don't even know how much debris we have yet. I said, I know, but I know we got a lot, and I know we're gonna wanna grind instead of burn. So, well, yeah, we're gonna do that, but it probably won't be for a few weeks. And I said, that's fine, I just wanna make sure you understand the scope of this, and that, because that's what they did in 2011. State let contracts, so there was a state resource that they could be requested, so the city didn't have to spend the money out of their budget to contract with it and ask for reimbursement. So I just wanted a heads up if they were gonna do that again. If they're
Got what? One city already has a contract with somebody,
Atkins has a contract for picking it up, and
and then Belle Plaine had
Belle
one?
Plaine hasn't, well, they've had a contract in place,
Yes.
just as a standing contract. They went through the procurement process on their own years ago for an event like this. They're already on contract, so that's all reimbursable because they had a bona fide contract in place, so they're already gonna be grinding whenever they call that company in.
I think Blairstown's gonna burn theirs.
Which is fine, this is what we do is call DNR and they know that.
They've already got it filed.
Yeah, I saw that Sunday when I was down there. Yeah.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, Yeah, as long as they call DNR during an emergency phase like this, they just grant the permit, they say, yeah, go ahead and burn. Shellsburg's burned twice already, because they don't have enough room. Yeah,
Where are you guys gonna be?
Where are we gonna be?
Tons and tons and tons.
Yeah, well, right now we're piling, at Hannon, we're piling all of it at the Fry property. At Rogers, we can't pile it in our burn location anymore because it's overflowing. And then, the river parks actually did not get hit that terribly. So that was crazy, unexpected.
Yeah.
There
But,
hasn't been any building structures right to go around.
what's that?
No building structures.
Building structures, some of them got hit, nothing substantial.
We just report.
Dents and stuff's been like gutter ripped off and stuff like that, but no substantial like pulled down. Some kiosks got knocked down, but
Remember, we didn't either on any of our maintainer sheds, right?
Minor like that, I
I took pictures and sent
when
them.
Nancy called me, I wasn't aware of anything. I've
Yeah.
learned in the last 2 days, we had some minor damage. And I did just forward some stuff to Nancy. really.
Yeah, that's what we just gave the list to the adjuster, and I think he's gonna go out on his own and look at all our stuff, so.
Perfect.
do you want to update them about communications? Oh, sorry, we just say something, Myron, sorry.
No,
Oh, okay.
Communications are working. As Scott said earlier, it blew our microwaves to the east. Which they were never designed to take 100 mile an hour winds up on a tower 100 foot up.
Nope.
The day of the radio shop climbing the tower to realign that stuff has apparently passed us at some time ago. Don't know how many years ago, but they have to have tower crews come do that. So they've been here once. They just got things patched together and working. They're gonna have to come back through. We've got damaged microwave dishes. We've got antennas bent over. That stuff will all have to be taken care of yet, but everything is operational. We too had apparently some generators that didn't like the signals they got and didn't want to start. They were all fairly easy to get started, and everything's been on generator power since. At Mount Auburn had batteries only. The other 5 that we're using all have generation. And those all started to work.
Okay. Anyone else?
And I got one car that's a little bent.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But Jeff Harnish went on vacation yesterday morning. He said, I think I'm gonna go on vacation. I said they were going to South Dakota to a casino somewhere, and I said, well, your luck's pretty good, so
Yeah.
should have given him some money. Not many people get a grain bit to go over in a car and
Yeah,
talk about it.
yeah. Yeah. So how are all of you three? Personal lives, you two are probably pretty well whacked. You were right in the core.
You got, your house is screwed up, isn't it,
Is it?
Tracy?
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's 2 houses within 3 miles of my house, and one of them's moved off the foundation. It's a 100-year-old house.
Yeah.
And the other one's a new house, and you can see through it.
I got 2 neighbors that's got new houses. Both of them, the garages face to the west,
Oh, that's not good.
and
Yeah.
both houses, the garages are gone.
Yeah.
Which in turn tweaked the
Tweak
house.
the house.
So now, the one neighbor, when I talked to her last night, that it sounds like the insurance company's gonna totally,
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah, once they're tweaked, they're hard to straighten back up. It's easier to tear down and start over. Yeah, which is sad, but yeah.
Bigger pile of flame, so.
Are you in your house though?
Mhm.
Are you in your house though?
oh,
or are you
we were holding the door shut.
Yeah.
Supposed to be in the basement, Tracy.
My wife and the dogs were.
Yeah.
What's really great is.
I got a solid
Exactly.
steel door,
Yeah, thanks for.
and between the lock and the deadbolt, it was holding tight, but yet top of the door and the bottom of the door was bowed in
Wow.
half, 3/4 of an inch on
Wow,
the west side of the house.
that's crazy.
So I was holding the top of the door against the frame, and my son was holding the bottom of the door with his feet against the hallway, shoving the door. Cause I was afraid that once that
Yep,
Sure.
yeah, the wind's gonna
frame
go
would bust
out.
open.
It's gotta go out when it comes in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, that's what happened to my addition, that the truss of the machine shed,
Yeah,
it couldn't happen again in 1,000 years, come through sideways, the tail did, and it took out 8 foot of 2x6 wall in that room and come right in. She seen it.
wow,
Yeah, continue to
It
watch
snapped them
that.
2x6s like there was nothing there.
yeah, yeah. As Gary just said, that as a reminder, that was what we have been blessed with. No deaths, serious injuries, it's amazing again. With the way that's going ahead.
Give a good warning.
Knock on wood.
Yes.
Yeah, definite warning.
We were over at a neighbor's and she's from southern Florida and she said this was much worse than hers.
People
It
say
was
this,
referred to as a land-based hurricane.
Yeah. It had the wind speed, most definitely.
Although it didn't have the duration.
No, but
Right.
longer than a normal severe thunderstorm, because that went 15, 20
Well, that's what I
minutes.
thought.
Oh, yeah.
Well, those
You know, you're
hurricanes,
used to
they
the
have-
storm roll in, you get a blast of wind for a couple minutes and it moves on. And
Not a
this
half
was
an hour.
not
They
a
don't
half,
have time
yeah.
to barricade
This was-
things up like they do for hurricanes.
Jerry.
True.
Exactly.
You know it's coming for a whole week.
Well, thank you everyone
Thank
for
you.
coming in. Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for the update.
Yep.
Yeah,
There'll be plenty more.
Good.
Over
Let
the
us
next
know about the individuals.
18
Yeah.
months.
I
Yeah.
plan to get logged in on that again today.
Uh,
Very good.
And I just need to know where to start.
Yeah.
If you guys run into law enforcement problems.
Yeah.
Holler. We'll probably